Well, all eyes are on Milan for the start of the men's Olympic ice hockey tournament. Who will win the gold, and what Lightning players have the potential to be X factors in these games? More on today's Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we want to begin with a shout out to our everydayers, those of you who tune into every single show, every single day. We love you and appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the Evan Bates and my Madison Chalk, Greg Steven. Greg, a little bit groggy this morning from a bad Super Bowl.
Wasn't great, man.
Great.
I was very disappointed, but I did have the Seahawks winning that, so I'll take that. Good morning, happy Monday. Olympics right around the corner, and we got a lot of guys from our team on this Olympic roster, huh?
We certainly do. A lot of Tampa Bay Lightning players, including a couple who have the potential, I think, to be X factors for their team. We'll talk about that. Is it Canada versus everyone else in terms of who's going to win the gold? And is there a surprise team out there that you may think come up and running? A lot to get to on today's show. We'll break down the men's tournament here today. Of course, as the shows get on this week, we'll of course talk about the women's tournament, including big USA Team Canada game tomorrow. So we'll have that for you coming up here as well. But let's get to the men's tournament. Greg, I think it's easier to go group by group here. So let's start with Group A, and let's start with Canada. Big Lightning connection to Team Canada this year. Of course, Jon Cooper is the head coach. We also have Brandon Hagel on the team. He's going to be, it looks like Brandon Hagel is skating on the fourth line so far alongside Bo Horvat and Sam Reinhart. Greg, how do you see the Lightning contingent playing a role for Canada in this Olympic Games?
I think he's going to bring kind of what Yanni and Girgensons and that line brings to the Lightning. I think it's going to be Hagel being the physical guy, the guy who's probably killing penalties just because Jon Cooper knows that's what he can do. And how about Jon Cooper? What does he bring? I mean, everything, right? I mean, we watched him have an elite season so far this year, managing the Lightning, and now he's got this pool of players that's just unbelievable. So I expect him to do a wonderful job up there in Canada. And like I said, I think Hagel's going to bring the fire to this team.
I agree 100%. I think Brandon Hagel may be a rotational player a little bit, but I think for him, his ability to score and also kind of play that style of game that, Team Canada really wants, which is be able to match up physically against, let's say, a team like the United States. That always seems to be their kryptonite, or at least it has been in past years. It's always been skill versus physicality. I think Brandon Hagel is going to be a huge factor for them because I think he can deliver that physicality while also, as we know here in Tampa, the ability to, have that scoring pop. And I will say, Greg, looking at the lines, it is pretty good to see the projected lines and see the guy who's right now a big favorite to win the Hart Trophy as your third line center.
Yeah.
Nathan MacKinnon, so right now, is the third line center for Team Canada.
It's pretty silly to think about him being on the third line. Yeah. But I think also we can't forget Four Nations. I think you had brought this up last week. And Hagel and Tkachuk, right? I mean, we know there's some stuff there. We just watched that Panthers game the other day. So Hagel's going to be a big force against the United States, I bet, as well, because we know there's bad blood.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch some of their games for sure. I have to ask, Greg. Everybody's been talking about the goaltending for Canada. It's when you look at the names, it's not anybody that's like super you're excited about right now. Jordan Binnington, Logan Thompson, and Darcy Kemper. Is goaltending going to be maybe the X factor in a negative way for Canada, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we talked about this briefly on a show a couple weeks back, but it's definitely their weakest area, I would say, right? I mean, even their coaching is more elite than their goaltending on paper, I think, right now. But how much is it really going to matter, I think, is the question, because look at the rest of the roster, right? I mean, I think it does matter to some extent, but I mean, look, like you just said, Nathan McKinnon is their third line center. So how much does it matter? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Let's move on to Czechia, a team that won the very first Olympic ice hockey tournament featuring NHL players, and have not ever really sort of hit that same level of, I guess, quality in these Olympic Games since. It is a team with no current Tampa Bay Lightning connections, but they do have some former names: Ratko Gudas, Andrei Palat, and Jan Ruta. So, yeah, good for Czechia. I don't know about you, Greg. I'm not expecting a lot from Czechia in this tournament. Maybe, a close game here or there, but they're on my down towards the bottom of my list of teams to watch, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think their most recent medal was bronze, I think. That was 2006. So, I think as far as winning, I don't see this team as being competitive. Just because, again, like you look at Canada and the U.S., it's just like the rosters are so vastly different as far as overall quality. And not that this team is bad by any means, but I just don't think it's one that I'm necessarily super excited to watch myself, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. David Pastrnak is going to be a fun player to watch and see what he can do
Right.
In the Olympic Games. But other than, and Marty Necas as well is having a big year.
And
they can
Vejmelka's
score.
a good goalie as well.
Yeah, they have some pieces. They can score. I think it's just, are they going to get up a team like Canada and just get steamrolled?
Right.
Greg, how about a team making its first Olympic appearance since 2002? We're talking about France. Only one Olympic or NHL player on the team, and that is Alexander Tessier from the Montreal Canadiens. But I will say, Greg, do you know who France's captain is?
Is it Bellemare?
It is
maybe?
Lightning legend Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
Yeah. He's like 40 now, is that right?
He is 40. He will turn 41 next month.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
He's played hundreds of NHL games too. I mean, he's a vet for sure. But yeah, I think the rest of their roster, though, it's like, they're gonna be there. That's for sure.
Yeah, they have one other current American player or North American player on the team, and he plays in the ECHL.
Right.
So I assume we're not going to see a lot from France. Yeah, for me, they're the team that is, they're the team that I think is just there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the Olympics. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a team that I would love to talk about a little bit more, and that's Switzerland. Maybe a potential to cause some problems, I think, in this game, mostly because who their top two defenders are now. And that is our boy, JJ Moser. And he is pairing with Roman Josi, a very, very good offensively gifted defenseman in Nashville Predators. He's somebody who loves to jump into the play. Now, Greg, JJ Moser being paired with an offensive defenseman who loves to go out and jump in the play, really loves to take some chances offenses, has the ability to score at any given time. What team does that sound like to you?
Sounds kind of like the Tampa Bay Lightning, if I had to take a shot in the dark.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
Him and Roman Yossi, man, that's such a cool combination. I actually am so excited to see that because I mean we know how good JJ is defensively, right? And Roman Yossi's no joke defensively either. But yeah, like you said, offensively, he is just a monster.
Yeah. And I think to me, you know, from somebody who's been able to watch the Nashville Predators for a while, have Roman Yossi having somebody like JJ Moser is going to let him jump into play more.
Hmm.
That's going to be a very, very, very good defensive pairing. If you're just kind of going based on the last couple of years, it might be one of the top defensive pairings in the entire Olympic tournament to me. And, you know, I think they also have some other good pieces too. Akira Schmid, who's been, you know, a pretty solid goalie for the Vegas Golden Knights this year.
Hmm.
You've probably definitely heard his name in the past couple of years. A lot of really good NHL players. Of course, Nico Hischier. It
And
kind
there's
of leads.
three Devils, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's like Heischer, Siegenthaler, Meyer.
Yes,
That's a
it
good
is.
thing to have all of them from the same squad.
Yeah, and former Devil Akira Schmid. So
Yeah, oh right, true, yeah.
yeah, so they have a lot of really good players on their team. Of course, you know, mentioned Timo Meyer, Kevin Fiala, we know can score. Nino Niederreiter is somebody that think adds some good depth. So to me, if I'm seeing anybody challenge Canada here, I do think Switzerland has an opportunity to kind of be, you know, sort of that underrated team to watch this year out of that group. Clearly, I think you and I together are going to say it's Canada 100% winning this group, probably
Yeah.
going 3-0. But
Hmm.
if there was a team that I think Canada would have the most troubles with, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Canada or Switzerland might give Canada the biggest trouble.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Especially like I think like you said, the JJ Moser Yossi pairing is probably one of the best in the tournament. So that's gonna be annoying. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's a tough pair to play against.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some of the other groups, including Group B, which is interesting to say the least. It's got the Finland versus Sweden matchup, but also can Slovakia jump up and play a role in this? And how big of an impact are Viktor Hedman and Pontus Holmberg going to have for Team Sweden in these Olympic Games? More coming up on today's Locked on Lightning. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. It's cold days, packed schedules, and big goals. That pretty much describes winter, folks. And when there's not a lot of time to cook, eating, well, it can feel like another big thing on the to-do list. Well, that's where Factor comes in handy. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat up in just about 2 minutes. The ingredients stand out: lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. But most importantly, no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. There's also tons of variety with 100 rotating meals each week, so it never gets boring. And there's plenty of different options depending on your goals, like high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean, GLP-1 support, and even the new Muscle Pro collection for strength and recovery. It's perfect for busy weeks when you still want meals that support your goals without stress. So head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl 50 off and use code LOCKEDONNHL 50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. So eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan, one free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. Again, get your health goals in order with Factor. Welcome back to Locked on Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Stephen. And Greg, let's go to Group B, where we'll find a couple of other fun Lightning players representing their countries in the Olympic Games, but not for the first team we're going to talk about, the defending gold medalist, Finland.
Hmm.
You kind of forgot that Finland won gold 4 years ago in the Beijing Games. They did that without NHL players. This time they will have some NHL players. A lot of I'm going to let you talk about Finland, and I'll give my thoughts in a second about what I think of them.
Okay, I think this team's actually really good on paper. I think it's one of the better teams of the non-Canadian United States variety. Um, but yeah, I mean, stacked forward group in my opinion. I mean, they got Rantanen, right? I mean, him alone is a unit. They got Lehkonen, who's played over in Colorado for a while. Armia, Granlund, Hintz, just a lot of names from the NHL on there. But then you shift to look at their defense, right? They got Heiskanen, incredible defenseman, right? And he's got Lindell with him, so you got two Dallas Stars over there on defense. And then goaltending. I mean, Korpisalo, not a bad goalie. UC Saros, excellent goalie. So I think this team is one of the more competitive ones in the Olympics.
Yeah. It's interesting because, and I agree with you, I think on paper, this is a very interesting team. It seems like since the last Olympic Games, though, they've kind of fallen down in a big way, kind of on the national stage. Eighth place in the World Championships a couple years ago. They finished seventh last year, dead last in the Four Nations tournament, and didn't, in my opinion, didn't have all that good of a showing to begin with.
Right.
It's interesting, they're, I would say the best player, the best Finnish player in the NHL right now is either Miro Heiskanen or Sasha Barkov, and they don't have Barkov.
Right.
Mikko Rantanen is a very gifted player, but are the other players on the team like at the full strength where they can kind of step up and add the support that Finland needs to compete? And I'm not sure about that.
You're not convinced.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. It's going to be, and that's why I wanted you to go first, because I'm very conflicted, because I do think they have the roster, to be good. It's just that they haven't necessarily been good,
Right.
the past couple of years when they've gotten to the national stage. And I part of that could just be player pool selection. Like obviously the past couple of Olympics, you haven't had Miro Heiskanen, Sasha Barkov, or Mikko Rantanen for the last couple of world tournaments, because they've always been competing in the playoffs at the time, so they haven't been in the world championships. But I don't know. To me, Finland is. I don't know how I feel about Finland.
That's fair. I mean, you have every right to be concerned, I think, but also compared to some of the other weaker teams of the tournament, I would argue this is definitely at least an average squad.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another squad who is maybe a little bit below average, Greg, and that's Italy.
Okay.
Italy is a team that, again, is just happy to be here. This is their first Olympics since 2006 in Turin. And if you were wondering if they were going to go the route that China did last year and maybe pull like some pro players and just say, hey, would you like to be a Chinese citizen for 4 years? They did not go that route. I'm going through the name, and there is not one player whose name I recognize. They apparently, apparently they wanted to make a point out of using players who were like born in Italy, raised in Italy, or play in Italy now. So, Greg, if you're looking for I guess, a team that's going to be
With
your
no games.
up game, why not the host nation, Italy?
Yeah, not a single NHLer on this team, and it's going to be interesting to see how competitive they really are against some of these other squads. I'm not sure sold on that, but we will have a good time.
Yeah, I'm not exactly going all in on Italy here. Anyway, Slovakia. Now that is an interesting team, and it's got a Lightning player on it, Erik Cernak. He's going to be manning the blue line for Slovakia, a team that's slowly starting to get a little bit better and better every year. Of course, they don't have Zdeno Chara, Marian Hossa, or some of those old names, walking down the roster line anymore. But Obviously, they had Juraj Slafkovsky, who, if you remember 4 years ago, the Olympics, when he was playing as a 17-year-old, that was his breakout tournament, was the absolute star of that tournament. He's front and center of the roster this year. You've got some other pretty good names like Erik Cernak and, Simon Nemec from New Jersey Devils. A lot of Devils in this tournament this year. He's had a pretty good year from the blue line. I mean, it's interesting that Slovakia, I think, even though their roster's not as stacked with NHL names, or at least current NHL names, it's still, to me, I think, a team that I'm curious to watch and see. I think they might be able to have some noise in certain matchups.
Yeah, I agree. Pavel Regenda from the Sharks is on that team, and he's been having a pretty good season for himself this year over at the Sharks. He's got a couple goals, and the Calgary Flames young guy Pospisil, he's been solid for them as well. So I think those two are going to have probably a larger impact than people realize.
Yeah, interesting to see. I'm not putting them over Sweden or Finland, but I do
Mhm.
think we can see some good performances. And again, excited to see what Slafkovsky can do in the Olympics again, because he
Me too.
absolutely killed it the first one. Let's talk to the people that I would say are the clear favorites of this group, Greg, and that's Sweden. Of course, they have Viktor Hedman on the blue line for Team Sweden. I think he was just named an assistant captain for them. You have Pontus Holmberg, who was a little bit of a surprise selection for them, but I would see him playing either like a fourth line or maybe an extra role. If you're not talking about Canada or USA, Sweden to me, Greg, in this tournament would be the other favorite that I would put up there with those two.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was actually going to talk pretty highly of the squad before you went, and look, their offense is awesome, right? They have Nylander. Lucas Raymond's been amazing. Philip Forsberg, we know how good he is over in Nashville. And then, another Devil, Jesper Bratt, excellent player. And then even their defense, man, I think is just really solid. Rasmus Anderson. I mean, obviously Viktor Hedman, right? And then you have like Erik Karlsson from the Pens. Forsling, we know how good he is, unfortunately, right? But he's on this squad. And then I also think in net, they're really good. I think surprising. It's funny to me that they have two wild goalies, but really cool.
They're both good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. And another Devil, Markstrom. So, great team. And this is not one to sleep on. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch play.
Yeah, and I think loaded at defense too. We talked about Viktor Hedman. They also have Gustav Forsling, who, when he's not punching players when they're laying on the ice, has been really solid for the Florida Panthers the past couple of years. Rasmus Dahlin and Hampus Lindholm, both are having really solid years. And then, why not have an X factor like Erik Karlsson, somebody that can absolutely rocket pucks, be a great power play quarterback. Yeah, I mean, Sweden to me, Greg, has all the tools, I think, to chase a gold this year. The one question I do have for you is Viktor Hedman. Obviously, we've seen him come back to maybe a little bit of a lesser role for the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are you expecting to see out of Hedman for Sweden in these Olympic Games?
I think I'm going to see him very similar to his role right now at the Lightning, which is big voice in the locker room and captain-ish vibes. But I think we're not going to see him play large, demanding minutes, only because I think a lot of the younger, more primed guys right now are going to play more than he will. But I don't think he won't have an impact. And I'm not saying that at all. I just think he'll be more of the veteran role that we kind of see the older guys start to take as their career slowly begins to decline.
They're pairing him with Rasmus Dahlin, it looks like.
Right. Yeah,
so that's going to be really fun to watch because Dahlin, who I believe is a right-handed shot.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but I'm like 75% sure he is. I think there's good combination and loading up on, I think, the offensive side of the puck, because we know both those guys can score too. Yeah. Sweden's going to be a wagon.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's my pick coming out of that group, Greg. It sounds like that's your pick as well. So let's get on to Group C. the group with Team USA. Is there another team among the Germany, Latvia, Denmark contingent that can challenge USA to get out of this group? And Jake Guentzel, possibly an opportunity to be this year's Olympic hero, I would say. Think TJ Oshie, think some of those players from way back when. More coming up on today's Locked on Lightning when we come back. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Hey, if you've ever used the online dating apps, you've probably had a situation like this. Somebody's profile looks awesome, has all the right prompts, sounds like some cool pictures and life experience, and then you swipe right, you go on a date and realize, wow, this person is not a great match for me. Well, in the dating world, you can just not schedule a second date, but when you hire somebody whose resume doesn't match their actual experience, it could set your company back a little bit. That's why you need to trust Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites when Indeed sponsored jobs puts your posts at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire somebody, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. And the best part is that Indeed sponsored jobs takes your post and puts it out to quality candidates whose real life experience matches what you need for your role. And that can make a big difference. In fact, according to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Locked on Lightning listeners get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves when you visit Indeed.com/lockedon. Again, just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about it on Locked on Lightning. Terms and conditions apply. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Back on Locked on Lightning here, Nick Morgan alongside Greg Steven. And Greg, let's just jump the gun a little bit and talk Team USA to kick off our Group C talk. Again, I would say there's a lot of people who have been waiting a very long time to see this collection of Team USA players compete. This is the first time we've seen people like Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews be able to actually compete in the Olympic Games. Same for the Kucherov brothers. A lot of people are circling this team and saying this, if it's not Canada, this is the favorite. What do you think about Team USA's chances here?
I think they're great. I think they have a stacked squad, probably one of the best in the tournament, like you said. I don't see why they couldn't win this. I think they have a chance to topple Canada. I don't think that's unrealistic. And I think we're going to see a lot of physicality from the Tkachuk bros.
Yeah. Did you see the Jack Eichel quote about the two rooming together?
I did not know.
The Tkachuk brothers are rooming together, I guess, in the Olympic Games. And Jack Eichel was like, if you hear like a wall crashing down at 3 a.m,
that's why
you can tell who's responsible for that with those two. I want to talk about Jake Guentzel a little bit in his role on Team USA. According to their first skate the past few days, Jake Guentzel on the top line next to Austin Matthews and Matt Boldy. To me, Greg, Jake Guentzel has the potential to be a breakout star in this tournament. We talk about, TJ Oshie being the name that I think everybody, even like casual hockey fans, knew after his performance in the shootout against Russia a few years ago. Last time the NHL was there. We talk about, Ryan Kessler kind of getting a little bit of a bump in 2010 from like his diving empty net goal against Canada. To me, the way Guentzel's been playing for the Lightning heading into this tournament, and now he's on the top line with Austin Matthews. To me, Guentzel is a guy that I think everybody, even casual fans, are going to know the name and know the skill and treat him as a player to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he is a huge X factor for this team, and we've seen how consistent and all the different kinds of roles he could play while he's been playing with the Lightning, right? I mean, he's so good at helping his teammates as far as like setting up plays, fetching the puck, but he also scores a ton of goals. He knows where to be to find loose pucks, and he just synergizes with like every type of player. Really, he does. We've seen him play with so many different types of guys, right? With the Lightning, and then he's also got that experience playing with Sid the Kid up in Pittsburgh. So this guy does it all, and like you said, I think he meshes well with. One, the whole team, but two, his line mates specifically, especially like Matthews. I think that's going to be a fun combo, and to have the physicality support from guys like the Tchucks, right? I think is pretty cool as well. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun team to watch, 100%. And USA has good goaltending. So that's something that we're going to keep our eyes on because, like you kind of mentioned with Canada, that's absolutely their weakest point, right? But I don't feel that way about the USA, right? We got Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman, three standout goaltenders. So there's
Yeah.
a shot, man. There's a shot there.
Yeah, I would say they are 50-50 with Sweden as who has the best goaltending group overall.
Yep.
Swayman, to me, I would pick him as the starter right now, although it does sound like it could be Connor Hellebuck's job to lose, and why not? He's been the best goalie in the NHL, I would say, for the past 4 years.
Mhm.
Jake Ottinger in Dallas, of course, is an absolute wagon. So to me, yeah, I mean, USA has a gold medal roster. I'll just
Yeah.
say that. And in past Olympics, I think the hiccup for Team USA sometimes has been a lot of role players. Guys like Jamie Langenbrunner, who are good players, fit on the team, but maybe not necessarily match up toe to toe with what Canada brings to the table. This
Right.
year, that's not the case. I mean, Jack Hughes is skating on the fourth line. You have guys, like Clayton Keller who are, kind of buried on the depth chart. So to
Yeah.
me, I'm thinking USA. This is, I think, the best Olympic roster that they've ever had.
I could absolutely see that argument. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, again, guys like you said, Clayton Keller, Dylan Larkin, awesome player. Tage Thompson, how about goal scorers, man? Like there you go. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think to me that they're the tournament to watch. Let's move on to some of the other teams in Group C. And let's go to Denmark featuring our boy Bjorky, Oliver
Yes.
Bjorkstrand. He's front and center of this Denmark roster. Denmark's always the team that seems to be in this tournament, always seems to be hanging around a little bit. Not expecting big things from Denmark, but it is going to be fun to see Bjorkstrand and company be able to be out there and skate.
Yeah, I agree with you. Six NHLers on this team. Some pretty notable names, but nothing too crazy. Bjorkstrand, I think, is one of their better players, and then they've got Ehlers, and they got Lars Eller, who's kind of a vet at this point. And I think one of their lucky things is that they do have Frederick Anderson in goal. That's going to help them out for sure. But outside of those few guys, I think they're probably not on this could be a winning team list.
No. Two players named Nick Jensen,
Yeah, I saw that.
and neither one are the Nick Jensen that currently
That
plays
we
in the
know.
NHL.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I want to talk about Germany here, Greg,
Okay.
because I said a few years ago, I think if there is any team that can be a surprise team of the tournament, it
Mhm.
has the potential to be Germany, because this is, I think, loaded with really good high-end talent. Obviously Leon Draisaitl was the flag bearer for Germany in the Olympics. I think he's front and center. But beyond him, you also have Tim Stutzla, who is also
Mhm.
quickly becoming a star in Ottawa. Mo Sider on the blue line for the Detroit Red Wings. There's people that are talking about him maybe being in the conversation for the Norris this year. So they have a lot of really good talent. And if you kind of watch, them on the world stage, they're starting to get a little bit better. They're competing, in tournaments, in making an impact more than they were, a few years ago. So to me, Germany, that's a team to watch for me, Greg.
Yeah, I agree with you. Also, JJ Peterka from the Mammoth, he's a solid player, and
Mhm,
they have Philip Grubauer in that as well. So,
mhm.
uh, you know, not a team to take lightly for sure, especially a team with Stützle and Draisaitl on it, right? I mean, those two
Yeah.
guys are monsters. So,
Yeah.
uh, I would put them ahead of Denmark, that's for sure.
Yeah. To me, a team with high end quality across the board. And, Greg, not current Lightning on this team, but we do have a Syracuse Crunch player playing for Team Germany, Wojtek Stakoviak,
I saw
who's
that.
having a good year for the Crunch this year and now
Yeah,
gets to represent Syracuse on the biggest stage. So a
good
little
for
bit
him.
of Lightning depth in the Germany conversation.
Yeah,
Also, just really cool to see Stakoviak represented here.
absolutely. He deserves it, man. Like you said, he's having a good year down in the AHL, so let him play.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last team in the group, the Zemgus Girgensons of it all. We're talking about Team Latvia, a team with some good Olympic history. Of course, they pulled a big upset over Team USA in 2006 with Arturs Urbe standing on his head. Always a team that seems to have some really good NHL players standing somewhere in the standing in the wings. Obviously, two good goaltenders in Merzlikins and Seeloff. Seeloff's in particular having a big year
Hmm.
for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then, of course, Zemgus Girgensons leading the charge there. Probably the highest quality caliber forward on the team.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
yeah, I mean, Latvia is always seems to be the team that is, randomly pulls a nail biter in every tournament they're in.
Yeah, I think one of the weaker teams for sure. But excited that Girgensons gets to play a bit, huh? And they do have a couple Florida Panthers on this team, so you never know. They got Vilimanis, is that how you say his name? And then Balinskis. So both those guys coming from Florida, and Teddy Bluger from the Canucks. So not like they're bringing no NHLers to the table, but definitely not anything to compete with a Canadian roster.
Yeah. So I think you and I are both saying USA comes out of this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, Greg, let's hear it. Let's hear some predictions. Give me the gold medalist for this win, for this tournament.
I think I have to go with Canada, man. I think
Mm.
they're just too good. And while I do think it's going to be very, very, very close, I think it's going to be Canada.
I am going not Canada. Am I going to go Team USA?
I would imagine so.
No, I'm going to go Sweden.
Oh,
I'm going to
wow.
go Sweden
Okay.
pulling it off because everybody's talking about Canada versus USA. Sweden, to me, has a very, very, very stacked roster that can make some noise. They made the noise in Four Nations.
Hmm.
Obviously USA, Canada were the headlines there, but I think people are overlooking Sweden a little bit, particularly them in goal because both Wallstedt and Gustafsson, whichever Minnesota Wild player you wind up choosing to lead, they're both having hot years. I think they're loaded, particularly on defense. I think Sweden can make some noise. I'm pulling an upset in this one, and
Nice.
I think Sweden is going to win Olympic gold.
Nice. I love that. I actually really, really love that. We going to silver now?
Yeah,
No.
sure.
All right, I'm
Who's your
going
silver?
USA. And I'm taking Sweden in third. So those are my three.
All right. So I'm trying to see like who the bracket is because I mean it can go a little bit different way, but I think
Right.
that you're going to see Canada for me in silver if it's not Sweden, and then why not? I'll say USA bronze. Let's get them an Olympic medal, shall we?
Yeah,
There we go.
we need to.
All right. So, a lot of fun stuff coming up. We're going to be watching the start of the men's tournament on Wednesday. Starts bright and early. In fact, our Wednesday show will probably not be up until after the first game gets started. That's how early the tournament starts. And of course, we can't forget about the women's tournament either. Some good hockey. USA is 2-0. They take on Canada this week. That is going to be a massive matchup. We'll talk about that a little bit coming up on the show, and a lot more Lightning storylines to get to, including are you
Mm-hmm.
sad that Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevskiy are not getting a chance to compete on the world stage? A little bit of a bittersweet topic there. More to come to on Locked on Lightning all this week. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back tomorrow. We'll see you then.